Hey there, thanks for checking out this video, and we are going to take a look at this awesome new book by Saul Leiter, or at least Saul Leiter's Foundation, commemorating his, what would have been his 100th birthday here in 2023. And this is called Saul Leiter, the Centennial Retrospective. And this, pretty much is kind of a beginning to end, really well organized book that I'm going to go through fairly quickly because it's a very large book, a lot of pages, but it covers really Saul's 100 years. And so you're going to see a lot of cool like self-portraits of him like this. And it's very well organized, starting, of course, at the beginning. And there's one thing that's neat about the book is scattered throughout are these essays that deal with some of the different sections. So here's a little welcome essay. Here's a self-portrait, another self-portrait, really nice one there, an early one from the 1950s. And this one just, the first chapter is called Beginnings. Very obvious, it's going to go through his life. Some different pictures of him. This one's quite interesting, but they have pictures of his parents, his mom, his dad, some pictures, family pictures, pictures of his different relatives here. A lot of the people here, his grandfather, and different generations of his family. A lot of these people were killed in the Holocaust. And then some cool like report cards and different sorts of things from his school. Here's his sister Deborah. Family picture of him, his siblings, and his parents. And then some beginning stuff here when he just started doing some photography. Self-portraits and pictures of his family members. Here's a student ID card from the University of Pittsburgh where he went for one semester, knew that wasn't for him, and ended up going to New York, and that kind of ostracized him from his family. So here's some pictures of some friends of his that he took when he was just starting out. Here's W. Eugene Smith. If you know photography at all, you will recognize that name. Nice self-portrait reflection there. Here's one of the first color images he did. Here he is in his apartment. So here's an essay, a nice one called The Hidden World of Saul Leiter, and this is a lot about him just sort of photographing things that photographing things that people would pass up. Also, the idea that he wasn't very successful early on, and he, passed on some opportunities and things like that. So a good portion of the book, of course, is going to deal with him as a street photographer. And so chapter 2 is a lot of street photography. And the thing that I like as a Saul Leiter fan, I have a lot of his books. There's a lot of black and white that I haven't seen when they talk about his street work. So if you have a lot of his work, it's intermixed with, obviously his color work. He's known for his color street photography, but there is a lot of black and white stuff here. So there's very typical stuff that he's known for, red umbrella, he's photographing the snow, which he loved to do all the time. There's going to be some of his more famous images like this one. But you're going to see some black and whites too, and it was interesting to see there's a lot of the early street stuff that he did. Was this black and white stuff. So, and some of them are familiar, some of them I've seen, like this one called Joanna, but there's a lot of black and white that I haven't seen before. So if you're looking for new Saul Leiter images, this is a great book to have. This, I don't know if I've seen before. I don't think I really like that one. He really liked the perspective of shooting down on things, looking down. Two that are fairly well known. Haircut, and this one's called Mirrors. More color stuff. So well-known one too called Phone Call. Here's some black and white stuff now. You'll start seeing some of that. Some Halloween stuff. He liked, he's doing some of the stuff at night. He liked using the black and white at night. One thing that's throughout the book that I really like are these contact sheets. I really like that idea. you get a sense of what, a contact sheet for any photographer are interesting to look at, because it gives you an idea of what they're composing, what they're seeing, things like that in a single roll of film. It's a nice one there too. I like the white that sort of connects the hat to the other man walking by. This has always been, always will be one of my favorite Saul Leiter images. When I first saw that, I almost fell out of my chair. Just the simplicity of it, and the 1 foot just right there. It's just fantastic. One of his more well-known ones, called Snow from 1970. As you can see, he loved layering, shooting through windows. I like it when he shoots, like taking pictures when he's in a cab and he uses the frame of the vehicle to frame the photo. I've always really liked that Saul did. Heavy snow, heavy snow. Being in Wisconsin, I can appreciate how difficult it is to photograph in that. What he must have been putting up with. Not easy. Well-known one called Harlem. This one I know I hadn't seen before, called Plane. That's interesting. Again, using the car, the vehicle he's in, to draw you in to what he wants you to look at. This is interesting. He made a comment that he noticed that the shoes of people who shined other people's shoes were all beat up and ratty, and so he kind of did a photo essay. I think it might have even been published in a magazine of those shoes. This is really interesting. Like, you have to find this. He just called it shoe, way down here. This is, in motion, slower shutter speed. Everything's pretty much out of focus, but right down here, way at the bottom of the frame, you have that shoe. It's just really interesting and different. So you see, it's intermixed. What I like is you have some of his color stuff. Most of it I've seen, but you have some surprises once in a while. And then you also have, his early black and white stuff mixed in with that stuff. He's primarily known for his color, but it is nice to see that early black and white stuff. Most of his stuff was taken around his neighborhood in New York, but here's a couple things from Paris from 1959. This is really neat. I know that was in his Unseen Saul Leiter book, which came out, I think, earlier in the year or late last year. Stuff with mirrors, different angles and reflections. Really interesting. Really makes you study the photograph. This is one of my all-time favorites, again, from Saul. Just all this white, the contrast of all the dark, and then a girl in red. That color red always draws your attention. Just off to the side here. Really awesome stuff. So once in a while they have little articles that explain some of the photos, how he was friends with other photographers and artists, like Diane Arbus over here, Andy Warhol. Another contact sheet. Some more interesting black. I always thought this one was really interesting. Perry Street Cat. Obviously it was probably jumping down from the tree. And to capture that and get that timing, really interesting, especially in black and white. Again, he would take the train, he would take the L, he called it, so he has a bunch of photos titled in a series called From the L, EL, which is sort of the train line. And he loved shooting down while he was waiting for the train. This is really neat. All these shapes, geography, the triangles, and having that human element right there in the middle of it. This is really interesting, the facial expression. So it was nice to see a lot of black and white, even though he's not known for it. If you're a Saul Leiter fan, you'll appreciate seeing a lot of the early black and white stuff and how his style sort of progressed a little bit. But this is still typical Saul. Like, this may be early black and white, but it's still that one person using things to shoot through, layering things, windows, reflections. Still, he was shooting that in black and white. Close to home, this is really good. This is by Michael Greenberg. He's one of the sort of the people who run his foundation, and this is all about just staying in his neighborhood, a few blocks. You know, he went out every day in his neighborhood and just took pictures. Now this is really interesting. Like the fashion stuff that he did, I've seen some of it, but there's a lot of stuff that has been unpublished from his fashion portfolio, which is great. Like this, just the checkers, and how different he was as a fashion photographer. Love the contact sheets. You can see what they're picking. He's picking, or the editors are picking from Harper's Bazaar. He did a lot of stuff for Harper's Bazaar. So there is some black and white, but a lot of the fashion stuff was in color, just very muted. But that Saul Leiter street style is in there, where he's, got negative space here, and there's another person, but he's got this model leaning here. It's just really nice, beautiful stuff. It's great to see the contact sheets, of course, with the reflections, things like that. I mean, and this was not typical of the time at all. This was very different from what other fashion photographers were doing and what Harper's Bazaar was doing and using. But this is great with all these pink notes, and then the pink outfit and the white glove. Just really nice. Some mannequins. I'm a big mannequin fan, so it's nice to see those. Some of the actual layouts that were in Harper's Bazaar are in there. This is really nice. This I absolutely love. I love how he used these mirrors and it's segmented the model. You don't really get the whole face before things started getting segmented. Really neat. So if you don't know much about him as a fashion photographer, he really did some nice stuff. Here's some advertisements. So here's one he did for Miller's Shoes. This one's I've never seen before. This is for Johnson and Murphy. Again, Saul Leiter style. The one shoe, again, reminds me of that one foot on L that was on the taken on the train, where he's got these 2 feet on the chair, or on the table. Really nice. This is nice. The series, this was unpublished, 1959. Really neat stuff. And then some of his actual covers that, from Harper's Bazaar. But really using negative space well. So here's another essay about his fashion photography and how radical it was and how different. So here's chapter 4. This is about him as a painter, and he did a lot of painting. He painted almost every day, apparently. And I'm not a super big fan of his painting necessarily, but it is interesting what he did. Like the color, you could almost see in some of this stuff how he would shoot through a window covered in raindrops and look for color if he was doing this kind of stuff. So obviously there's no human element in here, and a lot of these it's just kind of splotches of color, and he's painted what he liked. So Saul Leiter, the painter, is definitely covered in here. It's a part of who he was as an artist. Here's starting to get some shapes, people, things like that. That's kind of cool. I could see his fashion photography mixed in there. So here's, again, an essay about him as a painter. Here he is, a self-portrait. Not a self-portrait, but a portrait of him painting. And then chapter 5 are his nudes, called Intimate Views. And a lot of these are in black and white, almost all of them. These are women that he was seeing, or friends. These are the only color ones that he did, I believe. At this particular time, this was 1958. But again, shooting through windows, layering things like that. He's still kind of doing that. A lot of negative space, so it's still the same kind of style. Now, one thing he did do is he would make a print sometimes of his photographs and then paint on that print. So he kind of mixed the two. It was really interesting. Again, shooting through something like this reminds me of what he was doing on the street when he'd, you know, shoot through boards or something like that, or through a window. He did a lot of that kind of stuff, even in his nudes. So Saul Leiter, the nude, sort of the nude images, and these are little snippets, he called them, of just snippets of paper, and he would just kind of do this to get a brief look at what he had, maybe what he would want to print larger. And this one looks like he used the photo and then made a painting. He didn't actually paint on the print, at least I don't think so. So a nice mixed contact sheet. That's always nice, again, to see. This was the woman he lived with for a very long time. Soames Bantry was his girlfriend for a very long time, so he's got a lot of pictures of her. This is Jean. I've seen this one before. This is just very nice. The simplicity, how simple it is, but beautiful at the same time. Keeping Secrets is an essay about how Saul wasn't real open about the nude photographs that he was doing. That was something he kind of kept to himself, and eventually that came to be known, and they tried to do a book of just his nudes, and I don't think it came to fruition when he was alive. I think something might have happened after he passed away. So here's just a great picture of him to sort of end the book. The chronology just kind of goes through his life, born in 1923, and just kind of covering his life, going to college, certain photographers maybe that he met, when he, you know, maybe when he had a gallery presentation or an opening or things like that. So it covers his life all the way up to 2023 when this book was published. And then some picture credits and things like that. So I'm a huge Saul Leiter fan. If you know my channel, you know I love Saul, and just definitely had to have this book. I will have a link for this book and some of his other books down below. Please check this out if you're a Saul Leiter fan, or if you've never had a Saul Leiter book before. This is going to cover everything as an artist, a painter, photographer, all of it wrapped into one fantastic book. Really enjoyed it. So check out my links below. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. Otherwise, we will see you soon with another video. Thanks. Bye-bye.